I don't think I knew what my influences were at all. I just kind of went out and shot this thing. And I just did it in a very scattered fashion, because I'd really done still photography before. So I had lots of images, you know, but I didn't really, I mean, obviously making a film is different from stills in that you've got to put a whole argument together. And I'd also, when I was doing it, I would sort of, you know, I had a separate tape recorder, and I would do interviews with, for example, you know, that old lady. You know, she was just a great character, and we used to go in and have tea with her, and I'd put a microphone on the table, and she would just sort of tell these stories. And so there were hours and hours of her talking and reminiscing and stuff. And then there were some other characters as well. But I hadn't really worked out that the way of structuring the film was to transcribe all the tape recordings and then kind of read through and try and write a script from the tape recordings, which eventually happened. Because a friend of mine was a very good writer, and said kind of, when she couldn't stand seeing the state I was in any longer, said, have you transcribed any of the tapes? Or, you know. So she actually helped me and went through and sort of, you know, we then wrote a script out, or she wrote a script out, and I then sort of cut the film around the script. So that was, you know, but it was a very useful experience to sort of go through that and do that.
And you always do that now?
Not really. Well, I think, you know, shooting a film on sync sound is obviously different in a way. I mean, I think there's a great discipline actually in shooting a film that isn't sync sound, because I think you're forced to finding a visual way of telling a story, which I think is often much more interesting, because film's a visual medium, and it kind of takes you more to the roots of cinema, which is a visual form. And then, because I think the temptation with a lot of films is that you use the dialogue to shape the film, you know, in quite a boring way. You know, you do interviews, and then you cut, you know, you kind of illustrate the interviews, which is like the worst kind of filmmaking, I always think, because it's so unimaginative, and it's, you know. But with the documentaries that I then went on to, it was more like I would shoot a particular sequence or a particular interview, and then I would think, you know, what is it that I kind of want to know next? So it was more like building blocks, and I would then, you know, cut that way more. But I would always make transcripts, just because, you know, otherwise there's so much material you can't, you know, you got to sort of master the material rather than the material mastering you in the editing room. You know, it's sort of, I always feel in the editing room there's a sort of like a war between you and the material, and it's like, you know, and you want to be on top basically and be as organized as possible, otherwise it kind of gets the better of you.